What is going on, my fellow Summit Chasers? I am very excited about today. Today is Thursday. That means it's Summit Success Series. Every Tuesday, we talk about the boring stuff. It's just not boring, but we talk about the technical stuff. We talk about the tangibles. What are the tactics, strategies that I can use in my business to grow my business and find more success for my business, my future, my family, my community? Today, we're going to get more into, I think, the more in-depth stories, the in-depth emotional capacity and mental strategies. I guess we'll stick with the word strategy that you can use to continue to find success in your business. Because ultimately, especially if you're a founder, if you're a business owner, even if any kind of high performer, it's what's up here. When I was fighting, my first coach that I ever had, he told me that it's 20% physical. It's 75% mental, and the other 5% is luck. But we have to, no matter what, if we want to be a high performer, we have to get this right up here. And that means being okay with not always being right up there and identifying that and asking for help and being okay with failing, being okay with that. I know that's easier said than done, right? But you have to be okay. You have to be okay with taking some risks. And with that, it comes failure. But failure is only actual failure if you don't learn from it and come back stronger. And we have a great example of that today with somebody who I actually used to work with at a previous, when I was at my previous agency, when she was, again, on the outside, she was rolling. Everything was shiny. Everything seemed amazing on the outside. But we're going to get into how that can sometimes not be the case when you pull the curtain back and what that can mean for so many business owners. And I've seen it. This is just one of many examples that I've seen, myself included. But first, before we get into that, I have a few announcements that I want to make. One is the same one I make every time I do a live, is sign up. There's still spaces in person, but if you can't make it in person, the great thing is that there's unlimited space almost on the internet, and so you can see it live. But the Young Professionals Leadership Summit coming to you October 19th. It is in Toronto, Ontario, and we're very, very excited for this event. We're actually going to be having a live tomorrow. We're doing a panel discussion with some of the speakers that we're going to have there, and we have some absolutely incredible speakers, and we're going to prove it to you by bringing them on a live panel discussion tomorrow. It'll be on the Summit Chasers Productions YouTube channel. It'll also be on LinkedIn and probably on Facebook and X as well. We're going to have, I think, 3 or 4 of the speakers that are going to be there, and we're going to go over some questions that you have actually sent in when it comes to leadership, what it actually means. There's leadership's kind of a buzzword. It's something that's in theory very easy to read about. It gets a lot of likes on LinkedIn and on Instagram and YouTube and all those kind of things. But what does it actually mean to be a successful leader? So we're going to break that down. We are going to break that down for you with some people who have been there, done that, some of them 30 plus years, running teams of thousands, and you're going to hear it from them. So we're very, very excited to be able to do that. But if you haven't got your tickets yet, and if you want to see it online, if you can't make it to Toronto on October 19th, I totally understand. It's completely fine. Again, online tickets. For in-person tickets, these are priced so anybody, no matter where they're at in their leadership career, their leadership journey, can afford it, right? There's lots of these conferences that are thousands of dollars, and they're worth it. I'm not saying they're not. But this is not for profit. We're not taking anything home from this. Anything that is over cost is actually getting donated for Parents for Education in Toronto. So this is specifically to help the leaders that are coming up, because the future needs more leaders. All right. So in-person tickets, $60, nothing. Just don't have Starbucks for a week, or do, and then still get your ticket. Either one's fine. I can't survive without my coffee, so I get it. Or if you want to get tickets for the online, the virtual, it's going to be $20. And whether you get the tickets for in-person or online, you are going to have access to that footage forever. So you'll get to go back, rewatch, save some parts that you like, take your notes, go back, get some experience, come back and see it from a different lens, a month or so later. So we're very, very excited about that. So go to yplsummit.com. That is yplsummit.com. Confused myself for a second there. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of today. Again, like I said, success looks different for everybody, as you can tell by the name. The definition of success, each of our own definitions of success, is as unique as we are. It doesn't mean the same from person to person. On the outside, if you look at social media, if you read, autobiographies of some of these extremely successful people, it seems like they make it seem like there is a framework for what success is supposed to look like, but it's not. There might be similar aspects, but the importance that you put on each of those aspects and the percentage of importance you put on each of those aspects can vary greatly. And one day you want to wake up, you might wake up And it might seem like, okay, I got millions of dollars in the bank, or my business is making millions, and it seems great. I'm busy. People look up to me. I have lots of followers, whatever. And you wake up one day and you're like, this isn't it. This isn't what I want. And it takes a lot to admit that. One, that's like the first step, admitting you have a problem. It takes a lot to admit that, identify that. And it takes even more bravery to do something about it. And we're going to talk to somebody who's went through that today. Again, somebody that I've worked with in the past, that I admire myself. We've had the chance of working with her corporate team and even coming in and doing some events for her and her team. But I'm very happy to announce and welcome Amanda Brunson to this.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I saw you. I was trying to actually like take a little bit more time, so I can see, for those of you that haven't used StreamYard before, I can see in the back kind of getting ready a little bit. So I did a little extra monologue.
Sentence. I was like, okay, I have like 30 seconds. I can like.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to take my time. But thank you so much for being here. And for those for those here that don't know you, we have quite a few people on X. X has been crushing it lately for us. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, and a little bit. We don't want to get the meat potatoes yet, but a little bit of your background and your business.
Awesome, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I caught the majority of what you said. You know, obviously we've worked together before. My name is Amanda Brunson, and I owned a company for a short bit, but before that, I was in the multi-level marketing space for 8-9 years prior to that. So anyone that's been in the direct sales space, it's kind of like it's hard to plant your feet a little bit. And so when the opportunity for a company of my own presented itself to me, I took it. But it wasn't, you know, the product that I really wanted to sell. There were some things that were lacking, but it was a company that literally went on to do $5-6 million a year for 6-7 years in a row. So you kind of are chasing that. And I think that that's why this is so perfect as far as the things that you teach and the things that you talk about. I think I went down a 7-hour rabbit hole yesterday watching every single one of your YouTube clips and your shorts and your acting and the things. But there were so many things that resonated with me, honestly, just being in the field, you know, as when I started in this journey of business and entrepreneurship that I didn't even know I wanted to do. I was a full-time student. I had 3 kids under 3. They were all in diapers. And the opportunity to work from home and to sell a product just kind of presented itself. So that's where I started. And then, you know, 8 years later, I think it was about 8 years later, the opportunity to have my own company presented itself. I had no idea the whirlwind journey that was going to take me on, and that I would be today right back where I started. But it was a learning process, and I'm regardless of the outcome, I'm still very grateful for the journey itself. So
yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say I'm right back where I started. Well, physically, but you have so much up here now, and you have so many more skills and so much more experience to pull from now. So it's the ladder back to that point. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit shorter. But and this is something I've talked about this before. And first of all, I appreciate you going down and watching some of the content. I really appreciate that. But
it's really good.
Thank you. Hey,
You're welcome.
There we go. I like it.
It's really funny, actually. I caught myself just laughing out loud so many times. But anyways, continue.
Look, there's enough stuffy gurus and stuff out there. I don't know. We don't need another one. So I'm not gonna. I don't need to play into that. But and I tell the story before, and even when I do workshops or I'm working with my clients and that kind of thing, I tell them, because one of the first things that we do, and this is part of kind of what we call our strategy core, is understanding exactly what kind of business do you want, what kind of life do you want to live. And I give them some examples, and I haven't used you as an example, but that's a testament to how many other examples there are. But there's a lot of examples of entrepreneurs who, I have an example here, who somebody opened a coffee shop. It did really, really well. And they thought, well, if I have one coffee shop that's doing really well, what's the most smart thing to do? I'm a business owner. I just got to grow. To open another one. So they opened another one in another part of town. This is actually in Tennessee, which is where you are actually.
Oh, you said to say where I was from. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I love Tennessee, but yeah, she opened up another coffee shop. And that one did really well. And he's like, okay, well, I have 2 coffee shops that are doing really well. What should I do? I'm an entrepreneur. Everything should be growing at all times. Open another coffee shop.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she was so extended. She didn't have any time with her family. I think she had 2 or 3 kids as well. Definitely 2. I don't know if she had 3. And she didn't have any time to spend at home. She was miserable. She was absolutely miserable. And then because of that, the 3rd one that she opened completely bombed. And then she started to take that, that emotional baggage and that, doubting yourself and that kind of stuff. Because then if you have something that failed on top of, I don't even know if this is what I want to do, you're less likely to do what you need to do to kind of, take care of the other 2 businesses.
100%.
So she had to make,
that is 100%.
Huge. So then she ended up, she was like, this isn't what I want. So she tried to sell that other coffee shop, but she had to shut it down. So, but she focused on this one and made it exactly what she wanted. It was more of a family business. I think her kids ended up working there, kind of thing. But it takes a lot of guts, and there's so many more examples of that. Yeah. But when I tell this to some people, they're like, no one just randomly closes their eyes and has a successful business one day if they don't really want to. But it happens. So I'm curious.
I swear to you. I swear to you, it happens. Yes.
Yeah. And how did that happen to you? Like, what was that like? Like, just kind of waking up one day, I was like, oh, we made $5 million last year. Oops. Like, what was that like?
So it's honestly, I mean, even hearing that out loud is so bizarre to me, right? But I was with a company, I won't say any names, obviously, but I was with a makeup company. I started in health and wellness, and I ventured into makeup. And that's really where I realized like what my passion was. I was like, if I could just sit in this chair all day, every day and do makeup, my life would be great. That sounds unrealistic, right? So I was with a makeup company, and I was new to their makeup company because I used to work prior to that for a celebrity makeup company that they sold out to the shelf. And so I had to find a new journey, and that's where I was. So I've literally built my entire livelihood on social media. I don't know anything else. Like I will tell you, you're looking at a business owner that's had $30 million in revenue, and I don't know a lot outside of social media. I was a full-time student when network marketing found me, because I didn't even find it. I didn't even know what the term network marketing even meant. Like I had no idea. And I was a student to be a professor. And the only reason I chose to be a professor is because I had an online professor that was a total jerk. And so I was like, well, since I can't decide what I want to be, that's what I want to be, because I don't want to be this guy, So like I said, I had 3 small kids. I was an online student. That's where I was in life. So I was in network marketing, health and wellness, then makeup. And I was on social media. I was on Facebook one night scrolling, and I came across this Pearl party. And I know you guys have to remember this, right? Like 8 years ago, 7.5, literally exactly years ago. And this girl is sitting in front of her camera like we are right now. And she is opening oysters, and she's revealing pearls inside. And she had 372 live viewers. Now, we both work on social media, okay? That is not easy to do. It is not easy to get 372
at one time, especially. Yeah,
live viewers at one time. Okay. I mean, I've had reels that have popped off. Okay. I had a 3-second reel of a girl twerking in a pool, and it got 57,000 views. Okay, I get it. Okay. Yeah. But she had 372 viewers in that very moment. And first of all, they're all buying. Where do I buy? Where do I buy? Where do I buy? It's the element of surprise that's happening right in front of them. Okay. But in between those comments of where do I buy, I saw comments of, what's the shade of lipstick that you have on? Where did you get your t-shirt? What mascara are you wearing? What lashes are you wearing? Where'd you get your scrunchie? I mean, I'm like, this girl has found something that people want to watch, and everything she has is for sale. Everything that's on her, that's in display, she's a walking billboard right now. She's literally an online billboard. And so I'm like, I sell makeup. I want to host a party for this girl. I don't know what she's doing or how, if I can do that, but I want to host a party for this girl because I'm going to do my makeup. And then when I go live, doing what people want to watch, they're going to subliminally ask about my product. That's literally how this started, as bizarre as that is, saying it out loud. So my company that I was with found out that I wanted to host a party. Now, mind you, I did not know at the time that that company of the oyster openings was a multi-level marketing company. I had no idea. I'm a top leader already in my new company. I've grown very quickly, enrolled 472 people, I think, or had a team of 472 people in my first 60 days. And so they find out that I want to host this party, and I get a call from compliance and the CEO together telling me that they're rolling up my team. Literally just rolling up my team. Like,
what is that? What does rolling up your team mean for those?
So rolling up your team means, like, so when you're in network marketing and you bring on all these people, it's kind of like with you, or like with real estate. It's like with I don't know the analogy with you. Sorry.
That's okay.
But it's like with real estate, like you have one, I think it's called a broker, and then they bring on all these agents, right? And they make commission off of what those agents do. It'd be like if the CEO of that company came to the person above all the agents and said, hey, we don't like what you're doing here, so we're going to roll all these agents up.
Okay, so they're going to go to the next level leadership then.
So I'm like, dude, this is literally what I've worked my whole, like, I quit college with one semester left on purpose because I believed in the industry so much and just threw myself into it. I was making $26,000 a month some months. Like, my family was completely set based on the network marketing industry. Like, for people that they think it's just not, it doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for everybody, but it does work for some people, and it was working for me. So I was stuck at that point. I'm like, you're going to roll my team up, but you can't, that's your network. You know what I mean? Like, you're creating a network right now. Those are your people. You have a network of people that you've met and that you've traveled to and you've trained for. And if someone just rolls all those people up, then they're not yours anymore. So you have to go start over from scratch, you know? So this company was like, you can stay here and start over. Like, we're not terminating you. We're just rolling your team up. So I was like, I can't start over. Like, I've already exhausted my network with a couple of different companies now. This is our landing spot. And now they've rolled them all up. And so I was like, I'm not a beginner in the industry. I've worked years to create this network of people. So I was like, well, I need some time. I need some time to decide. So I still was watching these videos. Like, for 3 hours that night, I'm watching this girl. I was like so engaged with what she was doing, with how many people she had attracted to watch her. Well, in the comments, and this is an entrepreneur, right? Like, such just, when you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur when. So the way that this company specifically had it set up is that in order to get that person to open an oyster for you and to reveal whatever was inside, you had to purchase the piece of jewelry, a piece of jewelry on their website. And then they would get your order number. Well, there were the jewelry pieces were like $70 and $80 at the lowest. And there were so many people that were like, I just want you to open the oyster. Like, I just want to see what's inside. Like, I just want you to open it. Like, just keep opening it. Just keep opening it. Like, what color is it? What size is it? Like, just keep opening it. So I was like, if I could just get my hands on some of these and not have jewelry, I could literally at least coast my family from what just happened to me to where I'm going. I don't know what that looks like, or I don't know, but I could at least wedge the gap. Okay. Yeah. So I just started doing research, found a couple of pearl farms, oyster farms, and literally, like, within a week, I had oysters in my hand. And I was like, holy crap, I don't even know. And it exploded. And at first it was just me doing it. I was the only one, but night after night, I had people asking me, find us a way to do this, because I launched it with no jewelry. I launched it with a Wix website. Yeah. I said, $25, I'll open just the oyster for you. Okay. You don't got to buy jewelry. Like, when you see something magnetic like that, right, that's exploding, and then you can find the problem and create a resolution on your own. It just happened. And like, like you said, that doesn't happen a lot of times, but when the stars align, that's what's put into your lap. I never cared a bit about pearls or oysters. What you see me wearing in jewelry is what I wear. These earrings my husband got me for Christmas like 6 years ago, and my wedding ring. Like, I wasn't a jewelry guru that had a passion for jewelry for my whole life. I wasn't even a fashion expert of any kind. I know makeup, and that's it. Like I know the industry of network marketing. I know how to be an online professor, but that's really definitely not what I wanted to be. So I just started going with it. Obviously, when you leave a network marketing company, they hold your paycheck, so you're stuck a little bit, and you have to figure out what's gonna provide for your family. I was the breadwinner in my home, so I had to figure it out. I started going live every night with these oysters, right? People said the most, okay? I would literally make Facebook statuses that was like, yo, y'all got all the things to say, but I'm shucking it all the way to the bank, okay? Like I was literally, I had like $6,000 in sales a night, opening oysters for people. So, and obviously, you know, as an entrepreneur, I put my own spin on things. You know, they got to purchase this many and get a discount. They got to name them. They got to categorize it. I had fun with people. But every day people were asking me if I could allow them the opportunity to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. So I had someone else that I was working with that had been watching these parties with me. And she was like, you know, why don't we see how hard it is to just open this up for people? Like, let's just see if we can offer this as an opportunity for other people. Because I was partying every night and making great money, but that wasn't a lifestyle. Like that wasn't a lifelong thing. I was going live at 8 p.m. and there were times that it was 4 a.m. before, you know, I would be getting off the live. Sure, it was $6,000 rolling in, but you know, it was exhausting. I mean, I would get off the live and I had oyster shells everywhere. They were disgusting. I mean, all the way disgusting. So I started realizing though that it wasn't just the oyster that was creating the excitement. It was literally the element of surprise. And that actually fell into my lap too on total accident. So I was like, I partied like every night. I was going live partying every night. And one day my oyster shipment did like the tracking updated and it wasn't going to come in. And I was like, I literally, when you're rolling like that, if you miss one night, it's not that those people just save their money and order more the next day. You miss out. Like you literally just miss out. So I literally start Googling like wholesale boutique jewelry in the United States, like with overnight shipping. I'm like, I'm just going to try something out. Okay. I get on there and I go to their clearance section. They had like 87 pieces on clearance. I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. I literally ordered the 87 pieces. I went to Party City and picked up 100 treat bags, like birthday party treat bags. I shoved the jewelry inside, right? I'm telling them all day long that I have this huge surprise, okay? And when I hit the live button, I have this tray and I'm like, there's jewelry inside, but you don't know. I sold all 87 of them in 22 minutes. So then I was like, okay, like we're onto something here, right? Yeah. And from there, it was just like, what can you do to create an element of surprise for people? We put jewelry in candles, we put jewelry in bath bombs, we put jewelry in sugar scrubs. We created grab bags for breast cancer awareness that was guaranteed to be pink. I mean, you get into this scramble of what can you create? Because at that point, you're working with a category of people that always want something new. Like that's really what happened. You know, it's that microwave society that we're in, but that's definitely that customer base. And that's nothing against those people. I'm probably one of those people, but that's really, you know, you start realizing that that's your cash cow. First of all, the decision of makeup was it wasn't until 2 years later that I met with a mentor and that was much, much older than me, probably in his late 70s, that literally looked at me cross-eyed when I explained to him what I was doing. He was like, wait, you're doing what? You're opening oysters on a Facebook? And he said, what's your backup plan? And I said, makeup. And he said, well, he said, what's your 5-year plan? And I said, makeup. And he said, well, can we bring that to your 2-year plan? And I said, yes. So eventually we brought makeup into that business. But by that point, it was already so structured into jewelry that it just didn't work the way that I wanted it to. And so by that point, your attention is divided, your cash is divided. The business you didn't even want to start to begin with is your cash cow, so you have to keep it because it's what is providing. It's providing for your backup plan, for your 5-year plan. And honestly, that's where I'm like, I'm so thankful for it because now I have Rain Beauty still, obviously. And that without the reveal side, I would have never had Rain Beauty. And so it did finally get there. But the demise of that can happen so quick. Like when you're like, on the outside, it looked like things were great. Heck, when you guys were there, it went from 100 to 0 so fast. And that's just because that market that I was in was such a gamble. It was such a teeter-totter that wasn't a stable ground. And people tried to warn me of that, and by that point, 7 years later, so many people are doing that same thing because they see the same thing that I saw. We had already caught our momentum for it. People were going independent, realizing that they could research pearl farms themselves. And, it was just a volatile part of the industry. It wasn't like the beauty side where I created these products myself and you can't go create what I've created there. But to say a wild ride is literally, I can't make this up. Literally, I can't.
No, and that's something that there's a lot of businesses that you see, especially bigger businesses, and the size of the business, it just depends on the market that you're in. So what qualifies for a bigger business? I would say that yours, in the industry that you were in, probably one of the bigger ones, right? If you really get down to like the sub market, even that it was in, it's one of the bigger ones. But there's certain types of inertia that you look out when you're kind of examining markets and that kind of stuff. And there's one particular, it's called an inertia by proxy, and it's a negative thing. Inertia seems like a good thing. It's like forward momentum. But inertia by proxy is like a train, and you know how long it takes trains to stop. It takes them a long time to stop. Where you get into this point in your business where you need to make a pivot, but in order to make a pivot, you would have to pull back from what is currently keeping everything afloat. So therefore, you kind of can't, right? You kind of can't. And it seemed like that's where you were sort of at. Like you had this forward momentum here, but you couldn't really pull back because if you did pull back, then everything else would kind of almost not necessarily fall apart, but you wouldn't have anything to put into that other half that you wanted to.
Right. Exactly right. I would explain that as the reveal side of it was the candy and the dessert, and that the makeup side of it, the beauty side of it was the meat and potatoes, that was really what was going to create residual for people. It was such a quality difference that it just made sense. But on the outside looking in, this was an entertainment product over here. So the quality was never put on the forefront because for the price point, you couldn't. For the makeup, I was like, I will never put a product out unless the quality is 100% where I can look you in your face and tell you that you'll never try a better product. And so the two were just so opposite of each other, but it was like, this is where I wanted my end result to be so badly. And I had to do something because there was no way to merge it other than, and I talked about, trying to launch them separately and have people be able to toggle it on their website. But the people that were working in that network already wanted the makeup. So it was like, it just made sense. But 100%, it was like, if I took focus off the jewelry side too much, it would do two things. One, it would slow those sales down, but it would also make the field of people that were selling that product think that my focus was gone. And they didn't join this to join the makeup company. They joined this to do the entertainment side of it. So I had to be very careful even when launching, outside things, because I didn't want them to think that I was ever going to let that go, because I wasn't. Honestly, I was looking at investors. I was really hoping to find an investment company that could take over that part of it and allow me to just still keep it as a network marketing company and still be the leader there and the face of it, but not the CEO, I think that's the first thing I said when I closed the doors of that was, I'm just so thankful that I'm not a CEO anymore. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not a CEO. And I I literally want a t-shirt that says not a CEO, because it's just not for me. And I realized that, and just like you said, I had a very hard realization that just wasn't, it wasn't meant for me. It was not meant for me. And there were things that I would rather make less money doing what I love and I'm passionate about than to be stuck with something that wasn't for me,
Yeah. And that's hard for some business owners to even toy with. And whether it's ego or, again, they think that if I'm a successful business owner, I have to be the CEO. Right. And there's an example, and I can't remember her name. Adrena will correct me. Well, she'll tell me her name, because I'm not even going to try to guess. But she's the founder and owner of Honor Active, which is a fitness brand, or a fitness apparel brand. And she grew the business, like, it is doing like hundreds of millions. Like, it's ginormous. It's a big company. And she had to make that call. Chrissy Cella. And she stepped back from being the CEO. Right? She kind of had the same kind of conversation with herself. She's like, I like the creative stuff. I want to start a family. And I think she's pregnant now. I want to start a family. So she hired a CEO so you have to be able to do that. You have to identify, okay, where first of all, where am I best suited? Like, where can I actually make the best impact, the most positive impact for my business? And sometimes it's just, even if you're the founder, it's your baby. It might not be the CEO, and that's totally fine.
That's probably the video that I watched of yours last night that resonated the most, when you were like, you have to hire the right people. I think that's a huge mistake that I made. I hired people from the field, to come into our staff. I hired family that I knew had my best interest, and they did great. There's nothing against what they provided. But looking back, if I had said, okay, I need to allow a professional to select who these people are, I still would have obviously kept, I feel like for as far as my family goes, I had 2 family members that literally went to college for this. Like, they were still in college and changed their career for the category that they were in that business. And so that wouldn't have changed, but having someone be able to run it at a different level than I could, hands down. And I would have loved that part. I would have loved being able to take the creative side. And that's ultimately why I ended up selling Rain Beauty. And now I'm in the field selling it for that company, because I was like, listen, you want this? You got it. I've said for years now that if I could just sit in this chair right here in front of this camera and apply makeup and make a living for my family, that's what I'm going to do. And now that's where we are. It took way longer than I wanted it to, but
yeah, and that's something that it was obvious, I think, as a subjective or an objective third party, right? It was fairly obvious, because I remember when you would get on, you would blow everybody out of the water. I don't mean as like you would outperform them, let's be honest, but I mean, like, they would watch you and be like, holy crap, this is like the difference between like college basketball, Division III, and then like somebody like a pro, like, and you were that pro, like, you were very good at it. And I remember I should have grabbed a picture of when you guys would always do those, you do these like ridiculously like 24-hour lives, but you would do like the face painting. Not face painting, but you would do like the makeup art. Sorry, face painting is probably like a derogatory term for
it's okay.
But like, it was incredible, the stuff that you did. I wish I would have went and grabbed some of the pictures of like what you would do. Like, it was so good, but also your way that you were able to engage with people when you were live. Like, that's a different, like, that type of showmanship, that type of developing that like community, right? Like, that's something that it takes a lot of practice, but also something that I think you have to have some sort of like rooted in some sort of just like skill that you have, right? But I have a question.
Passionate about what you're talking about, I think, too. That's a big thing. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, you're confident too. Like, the confidence, if you know what you're talking about, you know the inner workings of what you're talking about the most, you're gonna have more confidence, and that's gonna come out. It's just kind of right the way it is, and you can tell when somebody's not as confident. But you have to be willing to go through that to get good at it. So I'm not dogging on somebody who doesn't seem confident. But you could tell the difference. But what was there, or what was the moment where you kind of looked up and you're like, this isn't it, I need to make a change? Like, was there a moment, was there something that you're willing to share anyways, that kind of caused this, like, this isn't what I want?
Honestly, it was too late by that time that I actually had the realization, because in my mind, I could save it. Like even though it wasn't what I was passionate about, and even though it wasn't where I wanted my own end result to be necessarily, I never wanted to ever shut the doors entirely. Did I want someone else to take over the harder parts and get even all the profit for that so that I could keep that opportunity for the people that were making money selling those products? 100%. But for a very long time, I was like, we're really just like one break away from, like, what's the next thing going to be? But then, like you said, you're chasing that and chasing it and chasing it. And then you literally like lose who you are a little bit, a lot of it. Yeah. And so you realize that the bank account it's not what it was, obviously, even with you guys, like wanting to bring you guys back and knowing that you guys were providing amazing, amazing training, but I was going to have to lay off staff way sooner than I wanted to, if that were the case. And then that was the case no matter what. So then you start looking at, okay, what salaries do I have to cut? And that becomes a very realistic conversation when those people are family. And that's, you have a nephew and you know, all of these things. So it's like, you have to make these hard decisions, but then it's like, as soon as one hard decision is made, you realize that wasn't even enough, because as you're over here focused on the hard decisions you have to make because you waited too long, it's still declining. And then people are scared because they see people leaving, and then rumors start. It just becomes this cycle that you can't get out of. So then you're laying off the next person. And then you have a staff member quit because you laid off this person. And it's just like, it just becomes this roller coaster tornado that you are married to, like literally. And so honestly, it was not until, and this is just me being 100% real with you, I was the only one there. I was literally the only one there. And I was the one pulling the order reports, making the product in the background, in the production area, printing the shipping labels, shipping it out. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. If there's anything I want to do or not want to do, it's not this. And I was like, I'm not serving these people right now. Like, I'm not able to serve them in the way that I know how. I'm not motivating them. I'm not coaching them. I'm not doing what I'm passionate about. Like, this has turned into the opposite of what I am even capable of. And it was like, if I don't stop this, then it was already too late, but it was like, it's going to be more than too late. And I don't even know what that looks like. And so I was like, it got to the point where I didn't have an option. I would love to say that I realized it way before then. And I think that I knew that I needed to make the decisions, but actually feeling the realization of needing to make them and taking the action, it didn't sink in until I was in an empty warehouse. In production, like, what am I doing? And then it's like, at that point, you don't have a choice. You have to move forward at that point.
What would your advice be to somebody who wakes up with that realization, or if even they start to feel more often than not, like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be? What would your advice be to that individual who, again, starts to have those realizations?
My advice would be, the first minute that you feel it, to evaluate then. I think that, people can say ego. I wasn't necessarily attached to the CEO side of it. So, but I could say the ego of failure was there, like, even if it was just internal, my advice would be, obviously, if you feel it, then it's time to evaluate and know, when you start a business or wherever you're at in your business, that you have to have those hard conversations with yourself right now. And you really need to evaluate right now what your game plan is going to be if that ever happens, honestly. And nobody wants it to, and nobody expects it to. Okay. But having those conversations with people, if I could have set my staff down and said, hey, listen, if we ever get below this threshold of sales, this is what has to happen. At least then it wouldn't feel like such a breaking point or such a breakup or divorce, and obviously at that time you could say, we never want this to happen, but if it does, just have that game plan with people. Obviously, if you're the one that feels that way, you need to do that. But if somebody else tells you that you need a backup plan, you really need to sit down and realize and like evaluate what that backup plan looks like and have a plan of action for your own family. I mean, for me, because it starts very small, even before I ever laid anyone off, I didn't take a salary. That should have been my first inclination. I didn't take a salary for over a year. So it should have been my first inkling that this is not providing for me anymore. It's not providing for my family. My sister, who was in my HR, tried to tell me that. My brother-in-law, who was my CFO, tried to tell me that. And it wasn't that I didn't hear them. It's just, it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I just, just being honest, but also it was hard, not because I didn't want to hear it. It was because in my mind, the idea of having to sit them down and tell them that this was over, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I literally couldn't. Even thinking of that right now, I'm like, I can't even think of a time frame within any of that that I would have been able to say, hey, we got to have a hard talk right now. And so that really would be my advice, is that have those hard conversations before you have to, and realize that if things, that nothing lasts forever, I think too. Like, it's really like almost nothing. Walmart and Amazon are going to be here forever. Okay. But it's like when I have someone that's like, I can't join network marketing because it's nothing ever lasts in there. I'm like, well, neither does anything else. I saw 2 banks close in my hometown like 3 days ago. Even McDonald's, they still shut down in certain locations because they're not doing so great, and they keep the ones that are. And so knowing like who you are as an entrepreneur and not attaching yourself, like that's the biggest thing for me. I attached myself because I felt like I had to, but then because of the decline, you literally you marry it, and then you don't know how to divorce it. And you get so attached to the non-failure of it that you just chase it and you chase it and you chase it. And you have such a belief in yourself, like, I'm a hustler. I can get up 4:00 in the morning and roll with the best of you. I can recruit 10 people tomorrow. I know what I'm doing on that. And I believe in myself. Yeah. And I think that my belief in myself was larger than the facts. Literally, like, I believed in myself and what I was capable of more than what was actually happening in front of me. And I don't think that necessarily has to come down to an ego. It can, but sometimes you're just blinded by knowing that you're going to make it out, that you don't allow yourself to realize, like, the realization. My husband's always like, you were the optimist. Your staff was trying to be the realist with you, but you had such an optimistic approach that you were like, and that's okay. Because for a lot of people, holding on to optimism is really what defines success versus failure. But when the numbers aren't lying repeatedly, then you have to switch your mode from optimist to realist and really have that hard conversation with yourself.
And this is super common. We call it that when founders have a love affair with their product or service, and they fall into what we call like the sunk cost bias, where I've put so much into this, I've made so many commitments, I've lost this much money, whatever it is, or I've dumped this much money into it. There's no way that it can't work out. Like, I have to make it work no matter what. Even if the writing's on the wall, you have people telling you one thing, and you can see it. Like, if you objectively looked at the data, you could see it. But because you have the love affair with, and not even just the product, because obviously you didn't, but you did with what you had created in total, like the company itself, the people that were there, the processes, like that's where it seemed like it was like, not, it wasn't
like the letting go. And you saying love affair, it's like, it's almost like you had a one-night stand and they got pregnant. Like, then you're stuck. Do you know what I mean?
Perfect, actually.
I'm sorry if that was too inappropriate for the show. But
that's perfect.
I swear that's like the best analogy in my brain, because it's like you saw it looked great. So you said, okay. And then it was like, wow, now you're tied to loans and debt and staff and all these things. And you don't know how to get out of it, and you can't like let your kid go, type thing. But it is like, it's an attachment that you can't get out of, and it's the same, like, but when I look back now, obviously in hindsight, I see that the creative side was what was keeping it going. And that was something I don't think really anybody ever said. Now they would say, Austin said to me, whenever Amanda can just go back to helping people, whether that's making money, know how to apply makeup, she's going to build a gold mine that none of us can even touch. And I didn't know though, how deeply that he meant that necessarily, And so looking back, because of the scramble, I would start to try to be in front of the field more, and I would try to create new products and be very, I have a portfolio of candles that I can't even describe how many are in there, but that's not what I wanted to do, but looking back, it was that creative side of it that kept it alive for as long as it did, which is what let me know. I mean, honestly, I shut the doors and I was like, my husband was like, obviously in our household, it's like, I'm the breadwinner. He's the stay-at-home parent. Things were very role reversed in our home versus a lot of homes, So he's like, look, I'm going to go back to work. You literally have like exhausted yourself with this to a point of literally losing everything. We're going to rebuild, and that's going to be hard, but just let me, let me be the man of the house. Okay. And I was bored like the third day. I was like, I cannot do this. I was like, what do I need to do? And I had a huge reflection moment in that, because I'm like, okay, my mother-in-law ran my warehouse, right? But she was in nursing before that. So she went back to nursing. That's what she knew how to do. My sister-in-law was in HR. She went back to HR. My brother-in-law was in finance. He went to finance. And I'm like, my husband, before we even, like, after 10 years, before this company even came about, was a truck driver, had a CDL. He went back to that. And I'm literally sitting there one day in my house, and I'm like, literally everybody got to go back to what they know how to do. What am I going to do? Like, I don't know what to do with myself right now. And that was really when it hit me. I need to get back in the field. That's what I know how to do. That's what I love doing. That's what I'm passionate about. And it wasn't until that like real pivotal moment that I was like, that's the direction that I'm going to take,
And that's one thing, those that are pivoting like that, or they're in that pivotal moment, being bored is a good thing, because you were stuck in it. Like, you were day to day, you were surviving every day. So to be in that mindset, or to be in that space where you allow yourself to be bored, you start to have honest conversations with yourself. Now, I'm not going to ask what those conversations were with yourself. Those are your own private conversations, but sometimes you need that. Boredom is a good thing. And we get stuck on, okay, I'm going to start scrolling on social media, or I'm going to start, I'm going to put out fires over here, or I'm going to create problems so I can fix them over here, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But being bored is a good thing. It brings you clarity in a lot of cases. Not for everybody. Right?
Well, I couldn't remember in that moment. I couldn't remember one single time in 7 years that I had been bored. I literally was just telling someone when I was in Florida, they were talking about the TV shows that they watch. And I was telling them, like, I don't remember the last time I watched TV. Like, literally, I don't think I've watched television in over 5 years. Well, that night I was like cooking dinner for the family that I was staying with, and their daughter came in, and she was like, hey, I'm going to go upstairs for a little bit. The remote to the TV is right there. And I literally looked at that remote, and I was like, I would not even know how to use that remote if I tried. Like, I do not know how to watch television anymore. Like, I literally don't. But that goes to saying, like, that analogy could show anybody how crazy our business life was. It wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to. It's that I didn't have time to. Now I have no desire to, because I've went without it for so long. Like, I literally cannot tell you the last time I watched a television show. I mean, now we'll have date night and watch a movie, but we have to plan that, schedule it, all the things. Yeah. And, but yeah, when I was bored, I was like, oh my God, I'm bored. Like, I literally didn't even know what this felt like. And I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And it was just that chasing, and I'm not bored anymore, but,
Mhm.
but it took being bored to really have that reflection of, what does Amanda need to do? I think
Mhm.
that I had to allow myself to be like, this person's doing this because that's what they love or know how to do. And this person's doing this because for the longest time, I felt so guilty, right? Like hugely guilty for the fact that they had to, like that they had to go find the other things.
Mhm.
So I didn't allow myself to be like, what does Amanda need to do? But at the end of the day, I was like, whatever Amanda needs to do can't be this. It can't be sitting in this house anymore, feeling guilty about anything. I have to pick myself up. Like I have to, because it consumes you. Like it literally, it can consume every part of your being. So I think that if I could have had those realizations in those same conversations of realizing that things were coming to an end, I would have been more prepared for what that looked like. And
Mhm.
I would have been able to move on without the guilt and without the things.
Mhm.
But you
Yeah.
can't wait too long. Like you just can't. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you have an incredible gift now, and I think that gift is your ability to be so much more proactive because you know the signs. Like you have more of a portfolio of signs to look out for too, right? And on
Yeah.
that kind of topic of being bored, like even some of the most successful, Bill Gates used to take 10 days every year and go be by himself, maybe just him and his wife, and just read and reflect for 10 days. Former richest man in the world, right?
Yeah.
Even he
And
would do
Nate was
something
just
like
telling me
that.
that about Aaron Rodgers. Like he
All of them,
like was
yeah.
in like a dark room for however many days or something. I think he's like telling that story now. But yeah, I think that because when we're scrambling, we don't allow our thoughts to even process. And I think that there were years of before one thought even finishes, just going to the next thought
Yeah.
because you're in such survival mode, you know. After that first successful year, you're literally in survival mode of how to keep that where it's at because it's something that is, I mean, when we talk about $30 million in sales, we're talking about an automatic 25% commission that was going into the homes of people.
Mhm.
So looking at that, you're like, man, this is buying milk for someone. This is filling someone's gas tank. So it wasn't just the staff that I was like having to feel a guilt about. It was, where are all of these people going to go? Where are they going to go and provide for their families and survive, you know? So obviously when I shut the doors, I tried to create avenues for that. Like, hey, you know, let me sell you this product wholesale because I have tons of product I don't even need anymore. Let me help you set up your website. Like I was just trying the most to try to get those people to be able to go out and flourish on their own without me, because I was
Mhm.
like, this door has to close no matter what, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I quickly realized that wasn't going to work. And so I had to just finally have that conversation with myself that I can't focus right now. I can get to a point of focusing on other people, but right now I have to focus on myself.
Mhm.
And I have to figure out what it is that I'm going to do. Like, what are my kids going to see that their mom does now? You know,
Mhm.
what am I going to do to help provide for my family? Because yes, my husband is a truck driver, makes great money, but he's still not home right now. You know,
Yeah.
like he's still working late hours. And so asking myself, like, what am I going to do to be able to shorten that workload a little bit? Like,
Mhm.
what can I do as the woman of the home to bring things in to help supplement?
Yeah.
And that was an entirely different, what am I going to do question than 6 months prior to that.
Mhm.
But you have to be really willing to just look at things at face value, you know, and realize like, this is really where we're at. Because if you let that hit you in the face,
It is
it's
hard.
not, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, but let's end this on a positive. Let's end it on like, oh, what are we doing moving forward here? So this is a question that I ask a lot, whether they're on our podcast or on one of these types of shows. Is I always ask, what's the next summit that you're chasing? So what's the next thing that you're going after? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take this? And how are you going to do it?
So I knew walking away from my two businesses that were combined into one that I was going to eventually relaunch my beauty brand.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's the greatest gift that came out of that entire cluster there, that entire whirlwind roller coaster. It still birthed a beauty brand that I'm super proud of. And in joining the field to try to find my footing again, I had that beauty brand on hold, and I recently relaunched it. And then the company that I was with picked it up. And so now I have the same opportunity that I was offering. Sorry, that's my dogs. I have the same opportunity that I was offering to other people as a CEO. I have it as someone in the field right next to them. And that's exciting to me because it's next to a health and wellness product also. So I get to have even more products than I had before. Their owners were in the field just like me. They're just actually making it work with a product that they are passionate about. So that's working for them. But it allows me to sit in the seat that I started and that I was the most successful at. Actually, people think success is like based on numbers, you know, but I don't. I see $5 million versus a $20,000 check. And I realized looking back, I would pick the $20,000 check every time because where I love what I was doing, where I was helping the most people, and where I felt the most humble, excited, driven, and like I was in a direction that I wanted to go. And so that's the ultimate goal for me. Like now this brand launches with them in 3 days, and I get to bring on as many people as I can to sell health and wellness and makeup. And I get to do it from this seat. I get to let somebody else do the hard part. And I get to provide for my family again and start small and grow it and just get back to that comfort zone that I've been in for the majority of those entrepreneurial years. The majority of that life for me was not as a CEO. And to buy a not a CEO t-shirt, I do want to buy that.
I think we need to get one. There's got to be one out there. There's got to be. There's definitely some that are like bragging like I am the CEO.
Yeah.
But we need like I'm not the CEO. But that I really, really appreciate you coming on because this is such a good example of knowing exactly what the success looked like for you and keeping it and constantly revisiting it. You can't just do it once because then this is a great example. If you put your head down, then all of a sudden you had that one night stand and you're giving birth to something that you didn't. Now this analogy is not working anymore. It's not working anymore.
And they get pregnant and then you're stuck.
And then you're stuck. But you end up loving it.
It has your DNA attached to it.
You love it anyways. But it's just something that you didn't want. It's a life. It's the burnout. You're doing the things day to day that you don't want, that you're not passionate about. And then when things start to go rocky because you're not passionate about it and you know you're not, it hurts that much more. And that's that much harder to dig your way out of it. So this is an amazing example of that. And I really
appreciate it. They always say like you do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that sounds like the most cliche thing. You're like, if another person says that, but it couldn't be more true. And I think honestly, in every career, you can see that. It just isn't always as now that I get to wake up and put on makeup, then it's not always that. You see that in police officers. You see that in teachers. Their incomes are not wealthy incomes. They don't do that for the money. They do that for their service. They do that for the passion that they have. Yeah. And I'm sure that they still feel like they're working. But if you ask a teacher if she feels like she's working when she's making her outline for the week or when she's creating something that's going to help her students learn mathematics, that if she would feel the same way as if she were to be standing outside holding a stop and go sign for traffic to go through, she's going to tell you that she would feel like she's working more if she was holding a stop and go sign, even if it meant that paid double, You're
just more willing to do the work. You're more willing to make the sacrifices and do the things.
Because you feel fulfilled. Like what fulfills you, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I really appreciate it, Amanda. I'm so happy for you that you're on that path of happiness and you're really clear on what you want and who you want to be. And I couldn't be more proud and happy for you. But
I'm proud of you too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I know we'll talk off. We'll talk off air.
I was going to tell you that.
We'll talk off air. But I really appreciate you. And I really appreciate everybody for showing up. X has been showing up for us. Man, we had like 67 people on from X.
Nice.
I love it. But I really appreciate you. This is going to live forever on YouTube. I'm going to make a fancy little thumbnail. So go rewatch it, share it out, because this story would inspire many others. But with that being said, until next time, everybody, keep chasing your next summit.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.